Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my show Camera Tuesday. In today's episode, we're gonna discuss why the heck I never say yes to Canon. So why no to Canon? So let's understand that. Well, first we have to understand the good aspects of it. Well, in simplest sense, Canon did the impossible. Basically, they beat Nikon. Now you have to understand this. Olympics have been going on for a very long time. Professional photography has been going on for long enough time. Now, in that reality, Nikon was a king to such a degree that if you went into early 1960s and 1970s and 1950s, all you would have find is Nikon camera in all the podiums. Basically, that's it. There was nothing else. Like other cameras were there for hobbyists, but professionals, Nikon. That's it. Like there was no competition. Every you see any old photos from Olympics, and every camera is basically Nikon. So Canon defeated that. So that's a very big achievement. And Canon retained what we call supremacy for a very long time. So it was like thought of like flat or nothing can touch it. But Canon did. So it's a very massive achievement. It's like, damn. Now, on top of that, you have to understand that Canon had a kind of very old kind of mentality when they were developing it, because they had to make sure what we call compatibility, because again, they are professional, and professional don't spend money on bodies, they spend money on lenses. So they had to design everything in such a way that you can mount a 50-year-old lens in a basically current gen body, and you can do that today also. But Canon took a gamble in basically 1987. They took a gamble. They are like, okay, I'm done with this thing, let's design drive-by-wire system. Now this is quite amazing, relatively speaking, because you have to understand how Nikon does it, because Nikon has a focus motor and a lever that controls the aperture. The aperture one you can find out even in your normal D70. There is a mechanical lever that basically controls the aperture. Problem with that is that limits the how much torque and how much control you can get out of, because camera body is standardized. You're gonna make a lens, and each lens will have a different requirement. Again, a wide angle lens would be much smaller compared to a telephoto lens, so telephoto lens would be much slower, so you can compensate for that. Canon went all in. It's like, okay, we'll design a system that works directly based on the lens. So if a lens needs a bigger aperture motor, they will put a bigger aperture motor. If it needs a smaller motor, they will put a smaller. Rather than standardizing it, they are like, okay, lens will standardize. Benefit, much higher precision in autofocus, much quicker response and all that. Even though Canon pioneered autofocus, Nikon pioneered autofocus, Canon beat it simply because they had much better lens designs because of this drive-by-wire technology. So they pioneered this in 1987. Awesome. Like that is some next level stuff. Now, that was not, it's not like, okay, after that they never did anything awesome. They broke the new grounds when they introduced full HD capabilities. That was amazing. Like, think of it this way: full HD is the resolution that was Star Wars prequel series was shot on. That was the first quote unquote large production, quote unquote very large budget cinema camera that was made by Sony. So that was full HD. So giving full HD in a DSLR was mind-bogglingly awesome. At that time, you could have easily found full HD in multiple small cameras and all that. But here's the deal: this was in a full frame. To give you a context of that, full frame is 35mm. Cinema industry uses Super 35, which is much smaller. It's more or less like an APS-C sensor. So this broke new things. It's like whoa, because you have to know, photographers have a much different depth of field perception than a Super 35. Again, they are working from a different system. So this changed the world. It's like 5D Mark II, even though I think it had like 10-minute recording limit and something like that. It changed the world. It's like, whoa, a DSLR can do such a competent video camera. And that time many people started to use it in movies, not as a primary camera. It was never good enough for a primary camera, but enough as a crash cam. Like even Iron Man 2 has used this as a crash cam in one of those F1 series. So again, new grounds. Now these are these are their achievements, the milestone they achieved. What about today? What about right now? If I have to say one thing good about Canon, I was thinking about buying a DSLR, and that time I was buying a DSLR for a different reason. I wanted to do photography, not videography that I'm doing right now. But at that time there was only two options. Sony was nowhere near as good as it is now. So that time I had Nikon and I had Canon. Here's the deal: Nikon was again bigger company, so they had a much bigger sensor system. Benefit of that, Nikon always have bit better ISO performance. And the higher end, they have flat out. People say their camera can see in night. Flat out, it's that good. So Nikon was better. Like D5300, I think at that time, was a better choice in terms of image performance. Here's the deal: the moment I was seeing a video side by side, everything was like Nikon. Yeah, it had a poor autofocus in basically video. That time dual pixel was not there in 760D. So but even then, even on contrast detect, Canon's algorithms was much better, so you can actually rely on it. So at that time, I was like, okay, that was the only advantage that I could think of. But the moment the reviewer turned the camera and showed the screen, and in live view mode, I'm done. Like in live view, if you had like Nikon, I have experience with this. I am hoping that in the newer one they have fixed it, is that if you change anything, you will not get any preview. In Canon you get an instant preview. Basically, if you are changing your shutter speed, you will get like, scene getting brighter or darker. If you are changing ISO, your scene will get brighter and darker. That saves so much headache. And I'm like, no, I'm a professional, I can do with my eyes closed. I'm not. So I was expecting based on that. So flat out, I respect Canon's UI. The only company that can even come close to saying that, that good kind of AI is Panasonic and Blackmagic and Fuji. Many people like Fuji also. So, but in large manufacturers, flat out, Canon's UI is on a different level. It's better than Nikon, and Nikon is multiple times better than Sony. So flat out, in terms of user interface, it's like somebody sat down. It's like, okay, let's make this usable. So it's quite amazing. So these are the great aspects of Canon ecosystem. So what happened to this giant, this my first choice? What the hell happened to this? Well, a lot of small bad decisions were being made, and art of photography also made a very interesting point. In very early on, many people started to notice like something is wrong with Canon. Canon went from pushing the boundary, doing things that nobody thought possible, to like, just chilling, man, just chilling. So, and there were not only that, there were some exploitative practices that started to happen. To give you a context of that, Canon 750D has a battery grip available to it. Basically, you can attach a battery grip, and it has a contacts on the battery chamber, so you can get your jog wheel and shutter button. Awesome, normal, expected on every DSLR. The 800D, which is more expensive and more latest, does not have that. I cannot buy a battery grip for my DSLR, basically flat out. And again, for a very cheap end, that does not make any sense. This is more expensive than the 750 series. Why the heck it does not have that? It's like a little details, nothing major, little details. Now another aspect that really pissed me off when I bought this is like, this lens, amazing lens. It does what it's supposed to do. It's a full frame 70 to 300 millimeter lens, quite amazing. It does what it's supposed to do, and it's next level drive by wire. So this system is also not connected to anything. So basically, it's completely drive by wire. It's just an encoder. So amazing lens, great autofocus, everything is nice. Here's deal, it has a screen here. I'm like, why you have a screen here when the box does not come with basically lens hood? Which is stupid. Like, a lens hood is a necessary, it's not something a luxury. Like, not only it's lens hood is for protection, you have to understand this. When you are talking about telephoto lens always sees like a very small area, like it's only this much. Now problem with that is like you will have a lot of glare, because light coming from this side, light coming from this side will bounce back and reduce the basically contrast of your image. That is why all telephoto lenses generally come with a big hood or even a bigger hood. So this lens does not come with a hood. Here's deal, Mark 1 did, Mark 2 did not. And here's deal, Canon has a lot of basically accessories for lens hood. Basically you can buy a separate lens hood, because again it does break, and that's what's supposed to happen. You're not supposed to damage your primary element, you're supposed to damage your hood. Those do not fit, because the moment they released this one and it's supposed to come with it, they did not come with and the hood design was changed. And you might think, okay, the diameter is larger. No, the diameter is same. Heck, it's smaller actually. It's 67 millimeter, and the other ones has like 70 millimeter. So flat out, they created a new system, did not give me the hood. Again, give me hood, throw away this display, everybody would be happy. Anybody who uses the basically telephoto lens in broad daylight will tell you, like, dude, a hood is important. It's not something that you're like, oh, nice to have. No, it's important. So these are little things I'm talking about. Like, this is an expensive lens. I can get 1/3 the price I can get it on Sigma or Tamron. So flat out I spent for this, and I'm like, again, little things. But again, imagine if you are a photographer who have been following Canon, like using Canon equipment for 30-40 years. One of those will not piss you off. 10, 20, 30, 50, 60 of that will piss you off. So something happened, like a lot of things, they are changing, small things that started to piss off people. On top of that, they flat out stopped pushing boundaries, because when Canon 5D Mark III came out, it was like, it's a revolution. It's not a revolution, it's an evolution. It's like, more polished 5 Mark II. Awesome. When Mark IV came out, it's like, okay, that's it. Like, now you might be like, okay, you cannot always push it, but again, Sony was there and Nikon was there, and not to mention, it became a running joke at that point. It's like, Canon releases every 5 years a 4-year-old camera. It's like flat out their camera on technological level, it's much behind schedule. Not only in autofocus and low ISO performance and all that, it's no longer like whoa that it used to be, that whoa. And it all started like with the moment they overtook Nikon. So instead of pushing boundaries like how this 5D Mark II did, they were no longer pushing it. Like nobody buying Canon basic cameras and be like, wow, nobody else can do that. So they stopped pushing boundary. Now that itself, these two things you might be like, okay, that's nitpicking. Okay, cool. Way too many models. Now this is what killed the Canon. This is the primary mistake they did, and they keep making this mistake, and this will kill them. Like, I am not even joking, and I'll make sure you understand that aspect. Think of this way. Right now, as of making this video, let's say in early 2020, you will have 3 lens mount competing for your wallet. Basically, you have your DSLR EF mount system, quite amazing, lot of lens selection. Then you have your M mount, which was created before R mount. Again, the M mount was by default crippled. They wanted to protect their own lineup, so they crippled it and they made it APS-C only. Now again, Sony was also in the same position. Sony also wanted to jump into mirrorless, but they did not cripple their lens mount, so they created the E mount. Benefit of that, they directly upgraded to full frame, no new lens mount needed. But this could not have been upgraded. Flat out, they created a lens system specifically for basically crippled cameras, compromised cameras, cheap cameras. It only sells in Japan and some other places. It's not a major success. Then because they crippled this, they had to create a new lens mount for R series. Side effect, as of now there are 3 active lens mount. So as a side effect of that, the oldest mount that has been going from 1970s, it has a lot of lens selection. Awesome. You have a lot of lens voices, quality lenses, red ring lenses. Awesome. Now the reason why Canon lenses are white is generally because they use fluoride elements. Be mindful of that. Fluoride elements is awesome. Like in terms of image sharpness, it's next level. Like it is the best thing out there. Side effect, it's fragile as hell. That's why Nikon never uses that, and that is why you will never see a Canon lens in basically international space station. The rocket launch itself will shake the camera and it will turn to dust. And heck, people have actual experience like where they were like, cold dusting the lens and it cracked because the temperature fluctuation will destroy your fluoride glass. Fluoride is very fragile, so you could easily find 30-year-old Nikon lenses, but you will rarely find fluoride lenses that are very old because they are not reliable. That is why they have to make it white. Otherwise, the heat itself, the heating and cooling from top and bottom will damage it. So again, you get the quality, so I'm not complaining about it. Just be mindful of that. That is why Canon lenses are like, especially that white ones are like, whoa, next level. But again, that whoa come at a price. You may randomly damage your system if you are not careful with the temperature. So too many new models, flat out three systems, and they are still releasing it. It's like 90D was released with the same time, like exact same launch date. They also released a 7 something like that, M7 something like that, and the same like a few months ago they released RP. It's like so many product line, and each of them cannibalizing the same thing, because a person that is buying an interchangeable lens camera, it makes no difference which interchangeable. The only thing that makes a difference is like how many lenses do you have. This has the highest lens, so most likely they're gonna buy that. This quote unquote cheaper only has few lenses, and this is super expensive flat out, because again they have to support all these 3. This is just dumb. Now you might be like, okay, this is my opinion, it has no bearing on reality. Well, it does, because their market loss started to catch up. You have to understand, smartphone killed the camera industry flat out. It's like a bomb, done. No more camera industry, because in 2010 the camera industry peaked. The amount of cameras sold was around 220 million, and I'm talking about all manufacturers. So that was the peak, that was like highest peak it ever reached. After that, to give you a rough estimation, in 2017 it dropped to 25 million. 120 to 25, basically a severe drop, 100 million drop. Like new units sold, it is going down drastically, and every year it's going even further. It's like tick tick tick. It's not like, okay, some year you may have like 21, most time it's like 19, and I think this year it would be like somewhere 16 million. So smartphone is like a drop tick rater on them. So Sony came up. Now you might be like, okay, the market is shrunk. How the heck Sony is gonna do capture the market? Because Nikon and Canon, again, still very respectable, still very big giants. How the heck they're gonna compete? So Sony did multiple smart things. In my dedicated Sony video, I'll make it what they did. But you have to understand, Sony did impossible. In 2017, 2016, 2018, and 2019, they are the most selling full frame camera. I'm not talking about mirrorless, I'm talking about full frame 35mm system. They're flat out, like there is 0% in terms of Canon and Nikon. Flat out, it changed the world. Specifically A7 Mark III blew away the world. It's like, for that kind of price, the amount of features they were giving you, the amount of performance you were getting, the amount of lens selection you had, blew everybody's mind. So flat out, this flat out damaged Canon and Nikon. Nikon is Nikon is here. Like Nikon is destroyed. Like Canon is still holding on because it does have a good legacy, but not in good position. Sony is like so flat out. Now, okay, you might say like, okay, market share ups and downs, that happens because again, Nikon was king for 30 years, but they did lost it. So, but that did not mean that they went bankrupt. Here's the deal. Canon has been steadily losing their market profits for over 5 to 6 years at this point. And I think the early point in that itself, like in 2011, they said like, yeah, profits are down. Here's the deal. That profit was down back then. Now it's down. Now it's down. Now it's down. Now it's down. They reached minus 64% profit. It's loss. They are running Canon cinema division, I'm saying Canon image division in a loss at this point in time. This is from their own stock market reporting. You have to understand stock market public IPO. You have to show your profit and loss. They are struggling at this point. Now, what does that mean for Canon? What Canon did is to around 2011, basically 12 and 13, they started to diversify their portfolio. They went heavily into industrial printing, and I mean like commercial size printers and all that, and photo printing also. They turbocharged, like during that time I think they released ink bottle tanks also, and they are trying to spread out their investment. Basically Canon Incorporation was created. It's like, okay, now we can have multiple things, so even if the camera division goes under, we're gonna survive. Now again, that another creates a conflicts of interest. Not only they had conflict of interest inside a camera, basically like 3 lens mount we have to maintain. Now they have cameras, let's say Canon's primary profit will be divided into Canon's basically commercial printer division, commercial photocopier division, and all that jazz, other things also. So this happened, like Canon, because of their stupidity, because of their conflict of interest, because of their going from let's do what nobody else could have done to just chill, man, chill, release 4 years old camera, and how the heck Nikon became the first camera company to release 4K in DSLR. So that does not happen. So even with a dual pixel autofocus, they are losing seriously, and they are losing hard. And again, this is profit from 2019. So this is not some I'm talking about 10 years ago. This is very latest. So flat out, Canon is in a deep trouble at this point in time. So what does the future hold? Well, Canon have to stop crippling their system. The moment they released 24 megapixel, people finally gave up. And I think during that time, they found out their quarterly report and be like, okay, no, we are really losing it. That's why they released okay, firmware release, okay. Because you have to understand, you might be like, I don't use 24 frames per second. I can understand that totally. I don't use it. But I want that feature. I want the availability for my tools to work the way it's supposed to. This 800D has 24 frames per second. Why the heck my Pro End does not have that? So if they are removing that, what else they will remove in the future? Maybe they start removing this, and they may be charging you money for okay, you want to save your video file, pay us money. Wait a minute, they did that. They actually did that. You had to pay money to get a feature unlocked. So you have to understand, they cannot keep crippling their own customers. Basically, yeah, buy this, then pay us more money. This was done with R series very idiotically. It's I found it odd that Canon has dual pixel. Their autofocus should be as par, if not better than Sony system. How the heck there in the early reviews, everybody was like, yeah, autofocus is there. It's just that you have to be very close. Then they randomly came out with this new autofocus algorithm that's supposed to be charged for $200. Yeah, now it's free, but at that time you can see screenshots are already available on the internet. They were it's $200 for activating eye autofocus and all that, and that made it almost same level as Sony eye autofocus. I'm like, that is very suspicious, because I remember before dual pixel was a big thing, before this 800D came out, Canon had contrast there, but they still had better autofocus. They had much better algorithms. So there is no way in hell with a dual pixel and with that kind of algorithm power, they did not had a working IEF. They just wanted to milk people for extra $200. So that is horrifying. They cannot keep doing that to their own customer. It's they think again, there was 60% market share at that point, at some point in time. Again, the market share is still there because again, most people are new who are buying into something else. The old people who bought again, I'm not gonna sell this. I cannot expect any money back for this. So those people who have bought all the Olympic shooters and professional shooters who are already in the Canon system, they can't do anything. But for that reason, their 60% market share will remain for a very long time. I think around 5 to 6 years it will remain. But they are losing, and they are losing hard. So they have to stop crippling their own customers. They cannot be okay, we're gonna release 500 products and you have to figure out which one is one will have USB charging, another one will not have USB charging. That simply cannot go on. The RP and R series, they cannot accept USB charging from normal power banks. They were you have to buy Canons. The whole reason of USB is universal. U is for universal. It's like, so these sort of thing, the crippling thing that I'm gonna cripple my own product because you have to buy another product. Nobody does that. They simply leave. They simply buy something else. Like this is their cinema lineup. There is a C100, there is C200, there is C300, C500 is missing, and there is C700. Why? Like a Red camera company has less than that. Red is like, okay, this is our latest body. We'll attach some modules into it. Okay, after like 2 or 3 years, they are like, okay, this is our new body with new technology. That's it. Like they keep moving forward. It's like, oh, you don't have too much money, buy this. You don't have little bit less money. I'm like, you can't support this many products basically. And not to mention, they do not have that kind of wow factor for going from one to another. It's like, oh yeah, this C200 and C300 more or less same, but C300 has SPI, SPDIF output, so you can like get Netflix certification. It's like, you cannot keep doing this. Make few products, make high quality products. This is one thing that I have to respect Apple. This is one thing I admire about Apple. It's like, one mobile phone, that's it. 3 mobile phone, that's it. And Samsung is like, why we are not making profit? I'm like, dude, you're making 63 mobile models are available in India right now. So again, so they have to reduce their product number. They cannot have a product number that creates conflict of interest like on every single product lineup. So this simply cannot go on. Basically, they have to reduce their product number and they have to increase their product quality, and they cannot go on crippling. Like I love the idea of Canon EOS R is that it had the electronic curtain, the mechanical curtain dropped the moment you remove the lens, because many people have complained this one thing that mirrorless suffer from dust very severely. Again, it's acceptable, like the moment you open it, it's like sensor is exposed, you don't have a mirror to protect it, so it's understandable. Again, awesome, they found a solution. Here's the deal, why the heck that solution is not implemented on RP? The physical hardware is there, the software is there, why the heck you disabled that? It's like, why? It's like, if they had done that, if they are like, okay, all our R series, basically R mount has this feature, it would have been a new thing. It's like, oh, you buy Canon R mount. Many people are like, give up on like, Sony because, hey, too much dust. They had the solution, they crippled it. It's like, they cannot keep doing this. They cannot keep doing this. Like, let's cripple it some more, let's cripple it even more. People will leave. Like, I'm telling you, like, even if right now there are like, you'll see this Olympic, too many Canons, next generation will not have Canons. So again, the future is uncertain. I invested in the system. I feel like a stupid idiot, but again, at that time, Sony was still barely, barely out of the gate. I think A5000 was available at that time. So future of Canon is basically uncertain. They have to fix themselves, otherwise they simply will go out of business. Same way Nikon did. So this was my presentation on why I don't recommend Canon. I hope you liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I'd urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me your extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.